Om Rabbi Yehoshua Bar Miriam. 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 Om Rabbi Yehoshua Bar Miriam.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. That we were listening to, that is Om Rabbi Yehoshua Bar Miriam. My first time hearing it was yesterday when I was looking at things from our most honorable guest, Felisha Beverly, and this is her and her children sharing this. So please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Miss Beverly, Miss Felisha Beverly. Hola, welcome, Felisha.
Thank you so much. That was a blast from the past because my children were so young. It was an organic moment where I was chanting in my bedroom and my kids one came up and started and the other one came up on the other side and they just followed suit. So I just thought that was such a blessing that I did put that up on my YouTube channel. So powerful.
It really was, because I felt it, and I also definitely watched your son do energy work with the lights, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I wanted to make sure and open up this very important call today with that, because I want people to recognize that this is beyond us. This is divine force working through us. And everyone here on this call today has already seen the video that you put out with the W4. And so what I wanted to know is, how did you come to the information?
I think when you get on your spiritual journey and you start going through the process of spiritual liberation, I think it's just a natural step to follow to get liberated from the material world. So I think people go through these two paths different ways, but I started looking into stuff maybe in 2016, 17. I had a meditation experience where I was shown that everything had to be completely destroyed and rebuilt from our education system, from our political system to, education. Everything needed to be destroyed and rebuilt, our medical. And so I was shown how it would take at least 7 years to start implementing. I had no idea at the time. I absolutely no idea what I was looking at, but I was shown a lot of things, and I just wrote it all down and started thinking what I was going to be doing to prepare. At the same time, I started following something on just looking into the straw man stuff and using your social security number to pay off debt. which I was successful at back then before they started flagging the credit card systems, and then it was no longer able. You could process big, large payments with the Social Security number using the routing and the number, and I helped people pay off Ohio taxation debts and BMV, like $6,000 debts from the BMV. Stuff like that went through no problem, never came back. But I kind of let that go a while, and then last couple of years with all that's went on, it just started coming, I'm like freedom all the way. So that's like one of my astrological things, and I'm all about freedom. If you ever assess yourself and your values, which I think everyone should revisit every year, and you value your health more than you value freedom, or, if you assess yourself and then you look and see what time you're spending on each of those values, and if it's not matching up with what you really feel, you got to make some adjustments, right? Mm-hmm. I value even above love, like personal love connection. I'd rather be free than be in love with someone. So that's how high freedom is on my list.
I'm with you. Yes.
So when 2020 stuff started happening, and immediately my intuition was no fear, no mask, not masking my kids. I watched, you can scan energy. When someone puts a mask on, their ajna shrinks, their throat shrinks, their whole aura shrinks, which means their will is no longer as strong as it used to be. Their mental body is no longer as strong as it used to be. And the whole overall aura is not as strong as it usually is. So, of course, I was not going to put masks on myself or my children. Freedom.
Yes. Absolutely. This is really powerful because this was, it's interesting how frequency brings us together. When we're vibrating the same frequency, we come together. And so we definitely sound like the same person speaking. All of us here in this space, it's like we're in the same situation. My husband and I have been on this journey officially. We started our faith tour in 2010. And then, we started fighting with the system and trying to keep our estate and them, and then we had to learn about these things that were going on, these truths, because you really only start learning when it starts to affect you in your life, and it's like, so this information was with us, and then we were introduced to the 508c1a structure, the faith-based organization, and that's when it just really started pouring in. And man, I'm just so grateful for the people that we're surrounded with, and so, relieved and trusting, because even, what you were saying to me before we came on, that you just said yes to this sit down with me, and you trusted it, and I trust you, and, and it's like, it's just a great thing. And let me just say this, I trust you in knowing that you are working from your heart. I and my family and everyone that we consult, everyone has to do their own work. This is all something that's being done for the first time. We are now accessing, all this truth and all of this freedom, and it's a matter of what we as individuals do with it. So by no means do we ever want you to feel like, if something goes wrong, because we live in that kind of society, right? Oh, we did what she told us to do, and now it's not like that. And I want you to know that we are all on board here, and knowing that everyone is independent in their fight of freedom and doing it for ourselves. So thank you so much for stepping out the way that you have. And I have to ask this, how has this affected your world? Because see, with the whole COVID situation, we started seeing people drawing the lines, the families breaking up, and people, there's so much separation with that was put in. But those of us that are fighting the fight of freedom, we're realizing that there's some things that, they just have to fall off. So what has that experience been with you in your community with the W-4 information?
Yeah, to follow up the first question and your second question, after all of the 2020 stuff happened, I just observed so much division, even in the healing communities, and it was very surprising, actually, because chronic healing has been part of my life for over 20 years now. It's the most powerful, most potent modality of healing that I've learned, and it's put the glue to everything else I've done. It really is the glue that's made everything else I've trained in make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the depth and the understanding and the connection to how it really, the laws of nature, the laws of healing, is what it's all based on. And when you learn that, it applies in every other category in your life. You can't look at anything the same. So that workshop is my favorite workshop to teach, which my next one is coming up September 3rd and 4th. And that's in Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio?
Dayton, Ohio.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's September 3rd and 4th. I just want to make sure I make note of that.
Yep.
And we can find information about that at FelishaBeverly.com, yes?
Yes, I have to update that on my website because I just put that date on my calendar.
Okay.
But what happened was after all of the COVID stuff and watching all the division of everything, it really just started helping people come together. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had people from early in my life contact from some of my social media posts, and it connected a lot of people that I hadn't talked to in 20 years. Mm-hmm. It really, it's kind of like people are finding their tribe. And when I started looking into the law stuff because of, my seeking freedom, number one, and helping others, I ended up meeting a guy named Dave Roberts who has started a lot of assemblies and teaches that there's 5 branches of the government, not 3 that we're taught in school. And one of the branches of government is Assembly of the People. And it has nothing to do with any of these other groups, which I won't mention the names of, that are agents trying to misdirect people. But Dave Roberts has a website, and Ohio Jural Assemblies have formed, and I think there's over 20 of our counties adjured now. So I took affidavit classes from him, and then I ended up getting a coach to help learn some of these other things about living in the private. And then when I came across the W4 channel, I had already been in a private group of 5 people. There's a pastor and another minister and his wife and one of my best friends and myself. So there's 5 of us. And we just said, look, we're going to get together and we're going to find out how these processes work, and we're just going to keep testing it out until we figure it out together. So I come across the W4 channel. I started listening and taking notes 6 to 8 hours a day on the open mic, just listening to people speak. I watched all the videos there and try to look through their media, their library of things. And when I heard, so I listened to Smoking Baby, who has been using this process for 30 years. I listened to Holly, who goes by Hollywood. And then I also was on the open mic chat with a guy named Lone Wolf. And when I heard him, after all that I had gathered from everyone else, and he said, one night I was really tired and I just I had filled out all these W-4 processes, and then I just decided just to fill out the W-4 and leave everything else blank. I sent a blank 1040 and a blank 1040B, and I just did the cover letter and said, if I've done any of the accounting, wrong, just fix it. When he said that one got assessed and processed before any of the ones with detailed accounting, mm-hmm. that is the moment that my soul was triggered. And I was like, I have to teach this, because if it's that simple, people will do this process. There's a lot of people that all these audiences that have been across, a lot of people don't have the will to take action, or they have too much limitation in their aura of fear and doubt that they just will not follow through. But when I heard that it was that simple, that was the moment I was like, I don't even care if I know anything like in its entirety. I know this has to be taught. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped right in. I did that class without even really comprehending like the majority of it. I just knew that this was something huge that had to be pushed out there right now, and there was no delay, and I couldn't even allow my limitations of not understanding it to prevent me from doing it. So my soul was on fire for 2 weeks. I could not sleep. I could not do anything except for absorb this information. And then I scheduled a class, and then I scheduled an online private class. It's like a kind of a, like a preparation class, really just to test it out. Uh-huh. And it was so big, and so many people responded that I taught 5 classes that next week. And then that one that got recorded, I did go ahead and put it online despite my reservations of being in the public. So how it's changed my life? Oh my gosh, my phone has completely blown up. The storage is always getting full. I have to keep deleting messages every morning. But the stories I've heard from so many is just unreal. How many people have been abused by the system and their children been stolen by CPS? I mean, it's given me a huge awareness of real suffering that's going on. It's given me a lot of wonderful connections to people like you and your group, and I've done a lot of private Q&As and stuff where I've just been so blessed by so many in the spiritual, high vibe communities. It's just been wonderful.
That is fantastic, and I'm so happy that you listened to yourself and you follow that inspiration, and that's part of the reason why it was so important for me personally to have you on here, because we really want our community to understand the importance of getting yourself in order so that you're able to receive the information. We do have a lot of people that are scared and that are afraid, and so they're going into this information excited because they know that it works, but they're still scared because, not a lot of people have done it yet, or, and so it's so important to bring the proper energy to it, and that's why I feel that your command of it and your command of yourself is a really important part of how you've been able to, kind of channel all of this powerful information. And so it's just more than reading something or, watching a video. We have to do this work within ourselves, and you have done the work, and this is why you have been so blessed to receive all of this that you're receiving now. And I just know that that's just such an important part of it. Is there anything in the process that you've learned that you have not recorded, that you have, any updates that we should know since the W4 video? And then I know that there's another W4 video that you go more into detail with. So after that video, has there been anything else that we should know about?
Yeah, I think, daily I keep learning more and more and more. So yes, I have not had time to do another video since, 12 or 13 days ago. My dad had open heart surgery last week, so I was caretaking for him for the last week. So it's been a little bit different in my time right now. But what I want to tell you is the accounting part that I left out. It can be done very simply. I just didn't teach it because I thought it would deter people from starting the process, because when people are overwhelmed, they just stop and then they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. But the accounting is so simple. If you want to do the accounting for these accounts and put it on the paperwork, if it's a bank account, all you do is you add $1 million per year, because the FDIC $250,000 policy, they take that out of your trust 4 times a year. So you add from the time you open the bank account every year, with that every 3 months, $250,000. So that's $1 million a year. And then you add every transaction, whether it's a withdrawal or a deposit, you add every transaction together. And that's the amount that you would put on the W-4 and the 1040. We always leave the 1040V blank because they will fill out the accurate amount once they reassess. If anything needs to change, they can fix that and, fill that in for us. Now, the other thing that a lot of people didn't like that I taught was signing that first page. But as long as you're doing bicolon, you're still separating yourself. But if you sign no forms, there's no liability. So you don't have to sign any forms if you don't want to. The 1040, the reason we don't sign that one is we're only by law allowed to sign one a year. And as far as fear goes, these forms are all reporting forms. They're not anything except for reporting. These companies are reporting on their side of things, and they're taking out things, of course, like I said in my video, without our knowledge or consent. They sign our name to things because we've already given them permission to be a fiduciary of our account. So it's just us reporting on our side of things so that it makes the books balanced. And some of these credits will come back into our account. Some of them will come back. And on your cover letter, if you ask if you don't, if you know the whole private versus public banking, if you don't know anything about that and you don't have a Treasury Direct account, then on your cover letter, all you have to do is say, any funds recouped to me, I would like you to send me a check or a credit card. And we know that they can do that because I've talked to people directly that say they've done that and have received a card back that has the money on the card. Just like, you know, with your tax refund, you're allowed to say, yeah, just send it to me with a prepaid credit card, you know, with the funds on the card. So those are some of the newer things that I have learned to do to make it more successful. As far as, say, a loan goes, it's just the loan plus the interest, plus the payment, and any fees, transaction fees. That's what you add up. That's what you put on it. Okay. And then, of course, your utilities and stuff, you always want to send a statement for evidence. And then what I've been doing is I've been using, you know, I've heard a lot of people do it except for value, the A for V on all these things, but never getting remedy. I think it's just because they've been sending it the wrong way. We can't send it to the companies. They have no idea how to process these things. These employees of these corporations, they're trained to do what they're told. They don't know anything about law or, you know, consumer laws or anything like that. So I think because I A for V'd that license and I sent it to the right proper remittance office of the IRS, within 52 hours, they sent me an email saying it would be processed within 13 weeks. So I think we can A for V all of our utility coupons and statements, because I've been looking at the Black Law Dictionary for coupons and statements, and both of them are things that we can accept for value. So I just sent in 22 packages this last week before I went to the hospital with my dad, and I'm waiting to hear back to see what happens with all of those.
Awesome. Okay, we do have some questions in the chat. And so one of these questions, what does she mean by private bank account versus public bank account? And I think you just spoke about that.
Yeah. Some people have never even heard that there's private banking versus public banking. So a lot of private banking, what I have heard is you have to have at least $250,000 to open an account. That is not true. You can go to treasurydirect.com or .gov and open a Treasury Direct account, and you don't have to deposit anything into it. All they ask you for is a bank account to connect to it. And so I opened a personal account on there, and you just click on individual, and you go through the steps, and you connect it to whatever banking you want. And then that one, immediately you get an email with your account number. Now, sometimes they will say, we need extra verification, which they did on me, and I think it's because my bank account was less than 6 months old. I just moved all my funds to a credit union. And so if they send you the email and say, we need an extra step verification, you'll have to print that form out and take it to a credit union or someone who can use a medallion stamp. I was able to do that. PNC refused, even though I had banking there for 20 years. But Right Pac Credit Union, they said, sure, no problem, come in. And I did, and they stamped it, and they didn't know. It was kind of a process. She's like, I don't know how to do this. Hold on. But they were super nice about it. Nice. So if you have to have that extra step verification, it takes a few more weeks before that account will be open and valid. But I used my EIN for my business, LLC, and opened a Treasury Direct account under that. And it was approved immediately without any verification step necessary. So that is sort of a way to get a securitized bank account through the Treasury Direct. I also opened a Fidelity account, which I didn't have to put any money either in. I don't know how that happened. I was down there looking for QSIP numbers, and somehow I got a card through the mail that said it was a debit card from Fidelity, and it actually says F.Beverly, beneficiary, because that's how I filled it out online, which I thought, wow, that's really awesome. So I have that. Some people say you have to put $25 to open a Fidelity account, but I didn't, so I don't know how I got through a different process. But so private funds are funds that cannot be used in the public. So if there's private credits that they've taken, like state insurance policy from like your license, the $11.2 million insurance policy they take out which I've heard is every year, but I don't know if I haven't validated that yet. But those probably will not come back in the public sector. So we will need to have them send those funds by check or credit card, or, we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, it's just like in the Bible, you have to come as a little child because we have to ask questions. So I call these companies up. I call Fidelity up. They are a brokerage company. I call the post office. I go right up to the post office window and say, hey, I've got this account, but I'm not sure if it's correct. Can you just check this for me? And I use my birth certificate number. That's how I found out it is an 11-digit number. And, if we ask, then we'll know. But if we don't, if we're afraid, we're never going to get there.
That's the truth.
So the public funds, though, if you do the receipts, all your receipts, if you save all your receipts are same as cash. And, of course, they're public funds because that's what we spent to get those receipts as public FRNs or credits or whatever we used. So all those receipts can be put on the 1522 or the 3500 form, and you put the amount and the receipt number, and you send all those off. Those will definitely come back in the public. So those will be easy to reclaim and for them to refund to people. So I've been telling people, if you want money back quicker, use those forms and get all your receipts together. Mm-hmm. There's one guy that, God bless, I don't eat fast food like this one company we call McDevil's, but this guy said he goes there every Saturday and has his breakfast sandwiches. And so he would ask every Saturday, hey, do you have any receipts that people didn't want? Which is actually abandoned debt, right?
Ah, yeah.
He's getting all these extra receipts, and he does, and there's a video on the W4 group where he shows he accepted for value, stapled them all together, put check marks in the right-hand corner of each one of them, signed on the back. I guess if you staple all of them together, it's considered one document because they're wired together by a staple. So you just have to accept for value the front and endorse the back and mail that in. And that's what he said he's been doing to reclaim all those abandoned funds. So who knows that receipts are the same as cash? Not me. I've thrown receipts away for years.
Wow. That's interesting. Okay, SCG9 in the chat, she's saying if the funds are deposited in a public account, would they take it back?
That is a good question. I have had one guy said that child support, he did W-4 process on child support, which he had child support due in 2 different states. But the one that he did, it was only 2 weeks later, he had over $40,000 pending in his account. And then the next couple of days, he got a letter from the bank saying that child support was trying to levy that back out, saying it was owed back to the child support agency. I don't know if that's because he had other child support due in another state or not. He's supposed to follow up with me. But they may try to levy that back out. In his case, they were trying to. I'm not sure. That's why I have been telling people with a cover letter, you may want to include, just be transparent. Hey, I don't know how these funds will be recouped to me. And if they're in the private side, please send me a check. If they're in the public side, please deposit to this account that I have listed on the 1040. I just think we just tell them what we actually want and be transparent about what we don't know and tell them to do what we don't know for us.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. Yes,
it's just simple.
Indeed.
People try to make it so difficult. And a lot of the things that I've learned over the last few weeks is people are not used to thinking. Like, they're just not used to thinking. We've been so programmed to just listen to authority and follow instructions. That's what people want. They want someone to hold their hand, say, do this, do that, do that. And they want to be right. And that's what people have to let go of. There's no right. There's choices and there's consequences, and we do want to avoid the bad consequences and we want to reach the good consequences. But, we just got to use our thinking capability, the divine intelligence that God gave all of us. We are being divine light, love, and power, and that divine light is the divine intelligence that each one of us has the ability to tap into because we are all made in the image of God, and that is what directs us. So let go of the fear, let go of the doubt, let go of the unworthiness and the things, the limitations and hindrances, and just know who we are. And that right there is changing your status.
Mm-hmm.
When you know who you are, you have already changed your status.
Mm.
We're not our body. We're not our mind. We're not our emotions. They're just products of our soul. We're not even our thoughts. That's just products of our soul. We are a spiritual being of divine light, love, and power. That means we have all access to intelligence. We have all access to love, which transmutes all. And we have all access to power, which is the will of God that can get anything done. We just have to remember. And when you actually know that you are an image of the divine, that's when all things are possible.
And so it is. Ashe, amen, amin. I agree 100%. Can we audit the accounts of the deceased?
Yes. I've been working on that because my mom was murdered by the COVID protocol in December. Nothing I could do. I've helped a lot of people get off ventilators using chronic healing, but there has to be some level of physical help in the physical realm. And the hospital she was at had no training. They had no ability. They should never have been taking COVID patients. The doctors refused to transfer her because obviously they're getting so much money for that small little hospital. They refused to do anything. So I have her estate bank account. I have assessed the hospitals. I've assessed the doctors that refused to do anything. I've assessed the nurses that talked her into taking remdesivir, even though we had it in her chart, do not give her remdesivir. They did it anyway. So yes, you can assess audits on anyone that is deceased. From what I have gathered and read, they will take money for 100 years from someone's trust fund, their SESAKV trust fund, after someone has passed.
For 100 years?
Yes. That's what I read.
Well, I don't doubt that at all, because they recognize the power of reincarnation. And so they're setting things up. They've been known about what they were going to do since 100 years ago. They knew that they were going to do the crimes that they're committing now, that they've been committing. So, yes, I'm not surprised that says that. Thank you so much for that confirmation. How do we find the Telegram groups?
People have asked me, please set up a Telegram group, please. I'm like, I don't have time. I have so much other work to do. I have been sending people wherever they ask. If they want to go to the PMA that I learned the information, I send them there. They are now a read-only, so they don't answer any questions. But they do have the open mics that people can get on. There's a lot of smart people on those open mic channels. Mm-hmm. And then Lone Wolf's Pack is where Lone Wolf hangs out and teaches, and that's a really high vibe spiritual group of jumping in there on their open mic too. And then there's a lady who jumped in both feet. As soon as she came to one of my classes, she drove all the way down, came to my second class, and she has started a group called Sandwich. And so I hang out there too, because that's my local Ohio peeps, so she's been doing great directing and helping and doing at least once or twice a week. So those are the three that I send people to. And if you find me on Telegram, which my profile name is Felisha-Marie, period. If you find me and ask, I can send you Telegram links, and then I can send them to you directly so you can forward them out to your group.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. I wanted to say it's so fun.
Let me finish with that, because there's been so much division with the W4 stuff, because I had put my video online. There was a little, discrepancies and, people saying, this is such and such's process, nobody else's way works or whatever. But we have to avoid all of that, mm-hmm. because if a process works, it doesn't matter whose it is. If someone's way of doing things works, we have to share it and we have to show the proof. And there's many paths to the same destination. So I say everyone should get along and really get rid of all the division stuff and just go forward, because we can't let the spirits of fear and jealousy and enviousness and, whatever it is that's preventing people from moving forward. We have to get rid of all of that and move in sync, in unison.
Absolutely, 100%. We have a question in the chat. Is Felisha's Pranic Healing Workshop available online?
Unfortunately, level 1 is never available online. It's just too potent of a modality. You have to have people in class, in person, with somebody supervising the energy. So it is something that global will not allow. For our agreement, we have to do level 1 in person.
Okay.
So, but I love my classes. I have small classes. I love to learn my students. I'm not a serve billions by the daily or whatever. Let me have 10 students where I get to know them and I get to really teach them and train them and give them everything I know that I can stuff in 2 days.
Yes, that is exactly how we do it here. So we understand that. Okay, so here's another question. On the video, I noticed you did not put beneficiary after your autograph.
Correct, because I use authorized representative above it, and many people have different ideas about that as well. Some people say we are not the beneficiary, even though we benefit from having this account. We're actually a registered agent or an authorized representative of this account. So that gives us the authority to act on behalf of it. So there's been a little discrepancy on whether you should or should not use. I don't think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you know who you are, you can write whatever you want. As long as you're separating yourself from the straw man, you can write what you want. Some things may be more powerful than others. It's truly what you learn and how you want to put the energy forward.
And that really comes from knowing who you are, and we talked about that. So I agree with what you're saying with that one too. Okay, we have another question from Sharice. In regards to the Sestake Trust Act of 1666, how does it apply to U.S. citizens when the Union rebelled in 1776?
That I don't know specifically. I wouldn't know. I just know that they set it up. I think it was actually a good thing in the beginning until they tried to put us all and label us as U.S. citizens, because by definition, a U.S. citizen is someone who's born in that 10 square mile of Washington, D.C., which most people do not fall under that category. So we're fraudulently filling out these forms, any applications to the state, driver's license, security, even schools, register for school. If you say you're a citizen, then you're admitting fraud, because unless we're actually born in that 10 square mile of Washington, D.C., we're citizens. We're non-citizen nationals of the United States.
I like how you broke it down in your video, sit in sin. I was like, that one was easy right there. I'll take that one. I do not sit in sin. I am not a sit is sin. So yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, words are very interesting.
Okay.
Words play and keep us trapped in the magic of things that is in the dark. I mean, all the courts are black magic. They're summoning the dead.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And let me speak about that for a second, because there's so many ways I've just recently heard that you can get out of court cases. One being, there is no claimant, there is no claim. And if Verizon or someone takes the court, there's no claim. It's a company, it's fictitious. If someone can speak on behalf of a man or a woman, there is no claimant. So how can a fictitious entity be harmed? If there's no harm, there's no law broken, there's no claimant, there's no claim. That's one way. Another way is this military guy I just spoke with long ago. He's gotten out of 8 court cases in a row. And, okay, let's just say his name is John Smith, because he does go by John Smith on Telegram.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he goes into court and they call for that name, he does go ahead and send in something ahead of time saying that he is going to be there by special appearance, but there was something that he believes was done in error and that they've gotten the wrong person. So he does show up, and then the judge calls his name. He says, "Your Honor, my name is Johnny." And he says, "Are you John W. Smith?" He says, "Your Honor, my name is Johnny. It's the only name I go by. It's my only name, and it's the only name I use in the private or the public. And the judge says, "What's your family name?" And he'll just repeat again, "Your Honor, my name is Johnny. It's the only name I use, and it's the only name that I go by in the private or public." And the judge just looked at the prosecutor and said, "Don't take any more people here without a last name." And he never takes any IDs on him or anything like that when he goes to court. And he's gotten 8 court cases dismissed.
Wow.
Just by that.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story about that before. Not taking your ID into the courtrooms. Yes, we have a question about the Nexus process regarding LexisNexis. If we should global opt out, partial opt out, opt in, delete my personal information.
I have not looked at that website with options. I only heard that by ordering the free consumer report that you would get a lot of information. A lot of people have not, though. I got 90 some pages, and mine had all the insurances that I'd ever taken policies out for my, for cars and all the places I lived. So it helped me track back a lot of things that I would not have been able to W-4. But as far as a lot of people, they're getting back not very much information, so they're kind of upset, like, well, did I order the wrong thing? Or I don't have any idea about the what you're speaking of, though, because I haven't looked at that website more than just the free consumer report.
Okay, I did. I know I did it, and I think that I did. I would have to read it again. I think I might have done a partial opt-out. I'm one of those people, though, that I'm like, I don't want y'all doing anything with me anymore. So if there's an opportunity for me to get you out of the way, that's what I'm going to do. But again, yeah, everybody has a different path and a different way. Here's a part 2 to that question was, when setting up a private bank account to receive credits and funds, do we do so as individuals or an entity? And I believe that we talked about that a little bit already when we talked about the LLC. But I'm sorry, I'll let you answer that.
So what? Say that again.
The question was, when setting up a private bank account to receive credits and funds, do we do so as an individual or an entity?
I say do both. If you have a business already with an LLC, that's what I did, because I think it is good to do that. And I think eventually, if you follow and really want to live in the private, you're going to want that foreign EIN, and you can set up something with that eventually later and then move everything over. But it's baby steps, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much to learn. And until you know that you don't want to take anything step forward. That's what I live by. Until I really know and comprehend, I'm not going to take a big old leap forward and do something I have no idea about. So I have a foreign EIN already set up. I haven't done anything with it yet because I'm still learning about private and public banking as well. So,
and we in this group are doing a lot of work with private and public too. And I will say that once you have that 98 and you set up your private account, then yes, everything can absolutely be moved. And furthermore, there's the trust that we have been really practicing and have adopted have been the faith-based organization, the 508c1a, and the faith-based organization, which is a super duper powerful trust. And so that's definitely something to consider for everyone that's listening as well. And people that are in this group, you guys know that we talked about that quite regularly. There is another question. What if you are born within 10-mile radius, and this is regarding to Washington, D.C., what if you are born within 10-mile radius, can you still do this, or is there a different method?
No, you can still do it, because it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. You can still report these forms to the IRS from all the corporations that are illegally stealing from you. So it doesn't matter if you are or not. The whole thing about the citizen stuff, like I said, the status is, I think status correction happens when you know who you are. And then you can separate your capital name from who you're not your name. You're not even the name you use. You're not the projections that people project onto you. You're not the ideas that you have about yourself. You know, there's so many things that you can separate from your identity when you know that you're a divine spiritual being. There's a divine part of you that's why your vehicle is a temple. So yeah, I don't think it has anything to do. You can do these W-4 processes no matter who you are. As long as you have a social security number, you can file these audits.
Now, I did have a question myself about the 1099A and the 1099 OID. Are we able to get remedy in the same kind of way? Do you think that the 1099 and the 1099 OID is not being fully materialized for a lot of people, is having these little things like the private trust and the private accounts and different things like that? Have you had any success?
I just followed up with a child supporting agency today because of the 1099A that was paid by my ex, because I just wanted to follow up to see what they had on record, and there's nothing on record. When I actually talked to the lump sum department, they said, well, I didn't know how to handle that, so I just sent it to the fiscal office, and I was thinking, of course you don't. Of course they don't want anybody to know that we can use IRS forms to pay these things off who work any level of these companies except for the very top. So I think that anybody can use these 1099As and Cs from what I gather. The OIDs can get you in trouble if you don't fill them out correctly, so it is good to have someone knowledgeable as a trustee or a brokerage to fill those out and process them for you, because there are people that have gotten in big trouble using OIDs. It's just, if you know what you're doing, you can use them properly. If you don't, and mixing private and public funds is another reason that people get in trouble.
Commingling.
There are ways to properly channel that money from the private through to a public account, but you have to really know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a lot of people within our group that have other groups that are very powerful, that are doing a lot of really wonderful work. So they want to know if they want to schedule a private call with you or an interview with you, what is the best way for them to get to you?
The text message number that I'm using is, I have tech support finally helping me. So I have an automated message for all the Dropbox link and how to donate and how to get a hold of me. But even if you text something about interviewing or anything, those get passed on to me. And people that email me, I do check all my own emails. So even though there's a lot to sort through, that's where, if you want a private call, I have a call list right now that I'm just adding phone numbers to, and then every day I go through so many, I can get through so many hours, and then I'm done. So it's hard to actually put a pinpoint schedule because I don't know how long my phone calls are. And right now I'm only doing it by donation, so I'm not charging people unless they want a full half hour or hour call. Then I'll ask for some sort of consultation fee, but mostly it's just by donation, because as long as I'm being provided for, I'm willing to work so many hours a day and just help people out as I can.
And we are so grateful for that. We're so grateful for you. And I definitely want to ask everyone on the call right now, you have Felisha Beverly's donation account number. So please drop a donation. Anything that you can would be absolutely helpful. We're so grateful for your presence here today. I also want to open up the line for I Minister Partlow, who's the one who introduced us to you, if he's interested in sharing or has any questions that he wants to ask. I Minister Partlow, you have the floor. Okay, I think that maybe he means that he's good and he has something to say.
Well, who is someone? We changed the time of the call because someone who had initially brought the video to your group. I just want to say thank you to that person. I don't know if that was you or if someone else had wanted to be on the call. Do you know
That
what
was
I'm
my
talking about?
Minister Partlow. That was him. He's the one who introduced us to ministry, because see, my husband and I, we've been doing this work of self-healing, and we work with Oregon technology and different things like that. And so just, this work that I've been doing on myself is what has brought me to the information. When I say me, I'm speaking for my husband as well. He had to step out. But we came into this information really quite organically. And when Minister Partlow came along from one of our other dear ministers that we have, Mo Life, who shared Minister Partlow with us, it was just automatic. He taught us that when you're doing good things, you do God's work. And everyone has the right to do that. And there are ways for us to have this freedom that we so seek organically. It's protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. And we all have, power to that. And then just being spiritual beings that are having this experience. I know for me personally, I needed to be left alone from that system. I needed to focus on what God was doing with me. And I had no room in my life for the public. And so it was just really organic for me. And I started coming out of my shell and talking more about it with people just this year, because I knew what was coming, and all of these things were just coming into place. So it was just automatic. So I want you to know, Felisha, that, you are my sister, and I'm going to be praying for you. I'm praying for your family. I want you to know that your mom, that energy of your mom is very powerful, and that energy is assisting you in everything that you're doing. And we're doing this like allies forever. When we're doing God's work, we are ministering for the greatest of humanity. So, I know if you're in, I'm in, we're always going to meet on this frequency. So if there's anything that I or our community could do for you to help, we're going to do that 100%. So thank you so much. I do have, okay, we got ministers at work here. They want me to tell you that, okay, here, God bless all here. God bless SEG13. God bless Solution. God bless Felisha Beverly and all family and friends. Aseo. Yes. Okay. I think we're getting... Oh, okay. He wrote all the questions down on the paper, so now we got all the questions in the group. Okay, so here's the information for Felisha is 937-607-9767 is where you can text, and you can Venmo Zoomy Star. I'm going to spell that out for you. Z as in zebra, U, M as in Mary, I, E, S as in Stan, T as in temple, A, R as in resonance, and that's on Venmo. And I'm sorry, that was on Cash App. And then the Venmo is at Felisha, the little slash, the hyphen, Beverly, at Felisha-Beverly. And, okay, and so you have that. And Ebony Jackson has a question. How long did it take for you to comprehend everything to where you were able to apply it to your life? Thank you. That's a question for you, Felisha.
Well, the W4 process, I listened to the 2 hours, 20-minute video of Smoking Baby, which is called Jack in the Box video that they refer to in the W4 PMA video or channel in Telegram. I watched that twice, and I watched Holly's Follow-Up Friday videos, and then I just stayed on the open mic and just listened. A lot of that information went right over my head. But as I listened day after day after day, probably about a week and a half, when I really grasped the magnitude of what this financial shift could be possible to pull the power away from these corporations, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we need. This is what has to happen to take these corporate entities that are taking the shift to financial power away from them back to the people. This is what I've been looking for. So once I understood that, it didn't even matter if I comprehended it all. I was ready to hey guys, we got to do this. We got to file these right now,
yes,
in huge numbers. And the easy way to do it is the forms that I have put in the Dropbox. I try to just make it super simple so people could do it, because it seemed like on that channel people were just so lost. They were just no step by step. And so I put all these forms in the Dropbox, but all you have to do is type in your information at the top of those forms, print out 40 of them each, and then all you have to fill out is the bottom of the W-4. You don't have to sign anything. You don't even have to endorse the 1040V on the back like I've done it. That's just extra. Now, the reason I chose to use the stamp and endorse it is because I've read the law that says if you put a stamp, a canceled stamp on a debt and you send it to the IRS, it will discharge that debt. So I just wanted to add that, and I thought it was simple enough. That was the way, that's what I chose to do. Now, the original guy, Smokey Baby, he says don't put anything on that. Don't endorse it at all. All he says, yes, endorse it because she likes to be extra, and that's what she did. So it's a personal choice, but if you type all that stuff in and print them all out, it literally will only take you a few minutes to do 2 or 3 accounts and just get stuff in.
Thank you so much. I hope that answered that information for you. I Minister SCG9, Precious Sakita, wants me to let you know that I fully stepped out on my square traveling in the private after watching the W4 video because you teach in such a grand, your teaching is, she teaches is such grand. I think she meant to say your teaching is so grand. She has a great power of transference. Yes, she does. And
Thank you for that. Thank you.
She says, I now travel with no state property on my car. She touches a bit on every law in the W4 video. And so for all of you guys that haven't seen that W4 video, when she gets really specific with that, you definitely want to check it out. And we have it right here at the Master Vibration 13 layer if you guys want to check it out. Is there anything, you've given us so much, you've shared so much. Is there anything that you want to leave us with that we should know, that you want us to know?
Well, I will tell you that video ended up happening because I showed up because I was sick. I was so sick one day, and I did not want to go to this group. I thought I was going to an Ohio Assembly group. When I showed up, it was an Ohio Patriot meeting, and it was a rah-rah rally group that had no idea about law. And they were showing some video, and then I spoke up, and I normally don't. I'm more of a laid back. I'm very much an introvert. But when God uses you and he speaks through, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, it's just like, it happens. The Holy Spirit just pours through. So I started speaking, and then they're like, you need to come and talk, and when can we schedule you? And I was like, okay, I can come back whenever, whatever. So that happened. And, you know, out of all of the cases and out of all the people I spoke to and out of all the just observing and reflecting on all that's happened in the last month, a lot of people don't get remedy because there's lessons of their soul that have to be learned. So some of these couples that are calling me and they're mad at their ex still and they're trying to get, go after them in the vengeance or something, they're not going to find remedy. So I actually end up doing more spiritual coaching with them than process paperwork. So the biggest thing I have learned and have seen throughout my whole healing journey, the key to healing, which is what my teacher words were to me long, long ago in his books, he writes, forgiveness is the fastest way to heal. So I'm getting ready to do a forgiveness video and leading through the prayers of forgiveness I've used that have been very successful. And when I say forgiveness, it's more than just like I grew up in Baptist church and, they say, oh, you just have to forgive. But they give no instructions on how to do so. We have the Lord's Prayer, which I did include in that first video and I did hold back on the teachings of that because there's way more to it, but you can only give certain crowds so much.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing the number one thing is knowing who you are, and the number two thing is learning forgiveness. And when you forgive yourself, you can forgive anyone else. We hold ourselves to such a high, there's this attainment that we hold ourselves to. And if we hold ourselves to that level of that it may be unattainable for perfection on the earth plane, how are we ever going to forgive ourselves if we expect so much of this perfection stuff that we're not here? We're here to learn and grow. And even if we have an exalted body from a previous lifetime, when we come back, we bring in a whole new tribe with us. So the nature beings that form our physical vehicle, our temple, every cell of our body has consciousness, which means it has willpower, which means it has a job to do. Every cell of our being is an angel of nature and form building. And every one of those cells has the ability to, when you chant or when you feel, love, or when you project love, making yourself a channel of love, they're transformed by our actions. Mm-hmm. So once we know these things and we hold that information and awareness, we can make different choices. And so when we forgive every kingdom. So we forgive the mineral kingdom, we forgive the animal kingdom, we forgive our human kingdom, we forgive any kingdom and every kingdom. And so I'm going to do a video on this shortly, probably in the next couple of days is my plan. But once we forgive ourselves and we don't hold ourselves to unattainable expectations, then we won't hold other people. And then when you do really, really deep soul work and you know why that you've chosen these people in your life to be your teachers, and you have agreements with them on a soul level, then it's not even need for forgiveness. It's an acceptance. You understand why they came into your life and what you're learning, and you thank them with gratitude for being your teacher. That's when all the energy is completely gone. There's no energy holding harbored negative emotions that causes, all cancer stems from some sort of harbored negative emotion. So forgiveness is the key. It liberates us. And when we forgive and we ask for forgiveness, we're free.
Ache. I received that. Thank you so much for that. Before I let you go, I have to ask. Okay, so there was a lady in the video, and she was just cheering you on. And when you would say things, she was saying things like right behind you. And she was like, her energy was so powerful. And do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, someone in the video?
Yes, in the W4 video. And you would speak, and she would kind of like, she would confirm.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
Tell her thank you. Tell her thank you for being so powerful in her, in her having your back and her support. Because that would bring a smile all the time. We watched the video over and over again, and all the time that I would hear, I would just be smiling. I'm like, I just love her. So thank you so much for that.
She's her name's Diane, and she is. If she comes in a room, you're going to know she's there. She's she has a lot of fire energy, and she's ready to take down everybody that is being, in corrupt in commerce and all that stuff. So, yeah, she'll appreciate that.
Good. Thank you so much, Diane. And here's Ebony Jackson is saying, yes, thank you. This session was very powerful. Appreciate you, Felisha. And Gabrielle says, yes, that part when you said, look, we were all like having a great time when you was flowing at the end of this. And then I Minister SCG 9 says, forgiveness brings freedom. And to that, again, we thank you so much. And this won't be the last. I know we'll meet. I don't know if we'll see you in Ohio. Maybe you'll come to California. I know we're going to see you somewhere, some way. It has been such a blessing to have you here with us today. Felisha Beverly, thank you so much once again for being with us.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate and the guy that said the transference, that is absolute. When you teach, if you know what you're teaching and you transfer that energy is transferred as a knowing and not just as a speculatory energy, So thank you for, I acknowledge his role for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for that. One more thing. There was something that you said that was very powerful, and it was just about the forgiving yourself and being able to, totally release that. And Solution and I were talking about, in our community and in most communities, but people just have a very hard time in being wrong or thinking that they're wrong. And this goes into the perfect imperfection that you were speaking on, and so I just thought that it was a powerful message that you said that, and we are going to continue that in the study group when we have our next study session. So thank you so much once again, Felisha Beverly, for your time here. Solution, is there anything that you want to say?
Just appreciative of your what you projected today and the information, and just truly honored. Thank you for your attendance. Thanks for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all for being so gracious and attentive. And I love you all so much. I hope you feel heartfelt love flowing. I appreciate you. I love you. Bless you. May you all be blessed with love, light, and power in anything your soul needs. And may you all be blessed with super, super, super successful endeavors, whatever it is your soul's desire. May you all be blessed with abundance and success.
Gracias. Thank you. Adios, everyone.